Well, hello, Facebook and YouTube family. This is Dr. Leon McCray checking in from Woodstock, Virginia. Just want to chat with you a little bit about um, real estate, but in particular, being asset rich and cash poor and facing bankruptcy. Because, there are many individuals that, as a result of this coronavirus situation, and maybe even beforehand, they were already kind of pushed up against the wall, and things were quite tight for them. But there'll be many businesses and many investors that this coronavirus situation is going to push them over the edge. And so many times, when you look at the amount of assets they have a lot of assets. They may have a lot of real estate. They may have a lot of business assets and so forth. And so if you look at it, they are considered asset rich, but cash poor. And many times, because they don't have the cash flow that they really need to sustain their operations, they're facing bankruptcy. So what do you do? What do you do when you're asset rich and cash poor and facing bankruptcy? Well, one of the things I want to talk to you about today is in that area. One, I believe you're really going to have to ask God for wisdom and for direction regarding this. Now, I'm going to share with you a few things that have helped me in the past and continue to help me move forward in this current environment and position myself for the future. I talked to you before about the McCray 50-30 rule, and that is simply because of what I learned from going through a really challenging situation back in 2008 2009 time frame. It's one thing to make a mistake, but it's another thing to learn from it. And so if you make a mistake, you have to learn from that mistake. And, there are going to be some real challenges going forward, and people are going to have to learn from the mistakes that they made and kind of regroup and re-challenge themselves to be in a better position going forward. That being said, so we're going to have to ask for God's wisdom and God's direction. The other thing, from my perspective, some learning points. What are some practical things that you can do when you are facing this situation? Hey, you got a lot of assets. Maybe you got quite a bit of your own property, your own buildings, your own rental properties, your own businesses, maybe multiple businesses. But right now, everything is shut down. You don't have the income coming in, yet banks want their money. The electric company want their money. The water company want their money. Taxes still got to be paid. You still got all of these different challenges, credit card payments, you got mortgages, you got food to buy. You got all of these different things. Everything's pulling at you. Your spouse may be looking at you kind of cross-eyed. How could you get me into this position? So you got all those dynamics going on. One of the things that you got to do, you got to look at your overall picture, all right? And one of the things I would suggest, if I was in that kind of situation, I would close or terminate all non-essential spending. You got to close those holes. You got to really close those holes. All non-essential spendings, you got to shut that stuff down. Even in from the family perspective, and as particularly from the business perspective. So close those loopholes. The other thing I would encourage, pay close attention to the things that are making you money, even now, and focus the bulk of your energy on those areas. Even in a challenging situation like this, there may be things that are making you money, okay? there are a whole bunch of areas that you might be losing money, but what are the areas that in this environment you're still making money? And so you have to focus on those things that are making you money and really double down on those areas and facilitate and support those areas to keep things funded and keep you going. Okay. One of the other things that I would encourage you to look at, prioritize your critical spending. And really, in this season, you really only want to be looking at, what do I critically need to spend? What do I have to spend? It's absolutely essential for me to spend in those areas. And things that are non-essential, you're just going to have to eliminate those things. All right? And then if you have, I'm a real estate investor, so I really talk from that perspective. If you have multiple properties, multiple businesses, focus only on those that are making money. What do you mean by that? Okay. You may have 5 or 6 properties, and you may have some non-income producing properties as well. Non-income producing properties such as maybe land. You got some land, you got some building lots that are not producing any income. You may have a vacation property that's not producing any income. Sometimes we have properties that are they're upside down. We owe more money on those because maybe we have refinanced in the past, and it's not producing. Maybe the mortgage on it is $1,000 a month, but it only rents for $500 a month. Well, those properties are upside down. It's going to be challenging to, particularly if you're facing bankruptcy, it's going to be challenging to keep those properties. But then on the flip side, you may have properties that they are producing $1,000 a month, but yet the mortgage is only $500 a month. Okay, you really want to concentrate on that property that's producing $1,000 a month, but the mortgage is only $500 a month, and see what you can do, because you want everything that you can keep that's not only producing an income but producing positive income after all expenses have been paid. Those properties, you want to do everything that you can to maintain. Not only maintain those properties, but you want to be in a position to keep those properties. Because the last thing a bank wants to do is, they don't want, their interest is not to take properties back, despite what you may have heard. They really don't want to do that if they can. Like if you are making those monthly payments, you're making those payments on time, even in the midst of bankruptcy. If you don't have a tremendous amount of equity in that property, but yet it's cash flowing for you, and you are making those payments, even in the midst of bankruptcies, those banks, for the most part, they're not trying to take those properties back. Okay, so you do everything that you can to stay on time, making your payments and taking care of the expenses of that property, because on the other side of bankruptcy, on the other side of the coronavirus, you want to be in a position to keep those properties that are cash flow positive, and so you'll be in a much better position. Okay, so prioritize the properties that cash flow and that you want to keep, and stay current on those mortgages. Now, that being said, even in the midst of this coronavirus situation, and we got the coronavirus relief fund, the government is doing what they can to keep us from, we're already in a recession, but to keep us from going into a more severe recession and perhaps trying to keep us out of a depression. You want to contact all your mortgage holders, all of them, and you want to ask for deferrals. Okay, most banks, they're offering anywhere from 3 months to even up to 12 months deference or forbearance of some type. Okay, because how do you know, after Jesus, cash flow is king. Cash flow is critically important in the season that we're going through, because man, there's just so much going on, and a lot of people are really pressed. They're tight. And, before I even go there, I talked a little bit about the McCray 50/30 plan, but I didn't get into that. And basically what that is, for those of you that are listening for the first time, or maybe you've listened before but you really don't understand, the McCray 50/30 plan basically says that when I look at my overall portfolio, I try to keep it positioned where I have an overall 50% equity position in every property. What does that mean? Let's just say I have properties that total $200,000. Well, I don't want to be leveraged more than $100,000 on those properties. So I don't want to be more than 50% leveraged in those properties. So I got 50% leverage, I got 50% equity in that property. Also, on the other side of that, if I have mortgage payments, and that's the 50, but the 50/30 rule is on the income that it produced. In other words, if I have my total mortgage payments come up to $1,000 a month, I want to make sure that if my rents or my rental income drops 30%, I'm still able to make the mortgage and fulfill my responsibilities to the mortgage company and pay all of my bills. So even if rents drop from $1,000 to $700, can I still fulfill my responsibility? Okay, so what I do a stress test on my portfolio probably a couple times a year to make sure I'm in balance. Okay, does that mean that every property is following the 50/30 rule? No, but what it does mean, maybe one or two properties I will own outright. Some properties I may own I may have a LTV of 90% loan to value. Some of them I may have 70. Some I may have only 30%. But when I look at the overall portfolio, I want to make sure that I am no more than about 50% leverage overall. And sometimes it takes some balancing, and it may take some time to get to that position. But from what I've learned in 2008, 2009, when I got crushed, those are the kind of strategies that I invoke now. So if things happen, and I predicted that, I don't know, several months ago, that I believe that we were at the top of the market and there would be some type of correction within the next year, next 2 to 3 years. Well, who knew that a pandemic would hit and just kind of shut everything down? We got businesses that had no clue that even in a challenging environment they would be closed. I mean, restaurants are closed. Nursing homes are having all kind of issues right now. Just about every businesses are having, those that are well capitalized. But when you go from 100% to zero, who plans for that? So, I'm grateful that so far things are well. I do have a cushion because I plan to have a cushion. All right, so that talks about the 50/30 rule. So make sure you contact all your mortgage holders, seek deferrals if you can, and stay in communication with them, because they are not trying to get the properties back. The government is, they're giving the banks money, they're giving them guarantees, they're backstopping them to make sure that that there's no run on the bank and that the banks are strong, okay? And banks don't want to take those properties back. So do what you can to make sure that you get what you need to survive this, okay? Also, you're able to, because of the relief bill, you can seek SBA loans or SBA grant. They have a SBA loan grant program. But let me stress this. When you're going through a challenging situation, don't allow your pride to keep you from asking for help, and keep you from asking for help early. Don't just wait until you've exhausted all of your savings, you've tapped into your retirement, you try to do everything on your own rather than asking for help. Hey, wisdom would allow you to ask for assistance early on. And so preserve your savings, preserve your retirement plan, preserve your cash so you can be in position to continue to move forward. Another thing you might want to look at is selling properties right now. Right now, the stock market may have went down, 10, 20, 30%, but real estate has not followed. Real estate takes a lot longer to go down in value as opposed to the stock market. So if you got some properties that you can sell even at a discount, it may be good to think about maybe getting out of some of those properties so you can build up your cash flow. All right. And so really, I'm not going to be long with you. I just want to throw those things out to you for you to kind of think about. Maybe that's a way that, even though you have a lot of assets, but you're really cash poor and facing bankruptcy. One thing about bankruptcy is this. A lot of people think when you go through bankruptcy and you're just going to lose everything you got. Well, that's not necessarily true, okay? One of the things, even in bankruptcy, if you own assets that are mortgaged, and you continue to make those payments, there are a lot of institutions that even at the end of and the other side of bankruptcy or in bankruptcy, they would allow you to keep those properties. Okay? So you want to think about that, and you want to make sure you position yourself to stay current on those properties, even at the expense of allowing those properties that do not cash flow, not paying those properties, because hey, in the end, you already know that things being shut down like they are, you don't have the money to spread out against all of the different properties or all the different businesses that you may have. So the ones that are limping along, hey, it is what it is. But those that are cash flowing, those that have, they're still making money for you and you're able to, it's paying for itself, really do everything you can to keep those properties. Again, I just want to shout out to you, encourage you. Hey, God is still on the throne. He hasn't forgotten about you. We may have made some mistakes, but nobody could have predicted a coronavirus situation. This is hurting everybody, myself included. But I do know this, that God is on the throne, and that His word will stand. Heaven and earth will pass away, but His word will last. It will stand forever. All of your needs are met according to God's riches and glory by Christ Jesus. Hey, you will not miss a meal. Everything is going to be all right in the end, okay? So survive this thing. Make it happen. Even if you have to file bankruptcy, hey, make sure that you carve out those things that will allow you on the other side to keep those particular properties that do cash flow and that you may owe money on, but on the other side of this, you'll be able to keep those things. Again, this is Dr. Leon McCray. Just want to shout out to you and encourage you. Hey, know that all is well. God has got your back, and you're going to come out of this on the other side really doing well. So again, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. This is Dr. Leon McCray, and thank you, Facebook, and thank you, YouTube listeners. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. Also hit the button and subscribe, and hit the bell so when I have videos, you'll get notified so you can check me out. God bless you, and we'll talk to you later.